All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming this morning. My name is Zach Eckstein. I'm the chair of Lewis County Democrats here in Lewis County. The goal for this morning, for the first hour, is to hear from some of our local candidates in both races here in Lewis County as well as statewide. And then at 11 o'clock, we will meet, do our sort of regular general meeting with members and non-members. We'll talk about what happened in the hour where we met with candidates, and then we'll start the endorsement process, which will last a few days until the end of Tuesday, and we'll have a list of endorsed candidates by the end. So we're going to start on Zoom today with our Supreme Court races. Some of these guys have another endorsement meeting to go to at the back half of this hour, so I want to make sure that they can get out of here in time for that. Candidates that are on Zoom, what I'll ask you to do is name your name and the position you're running for, and then you'll give a short 2 to 3 minute statement, and then we will open the floor to audience questions. We'll probably do 2 per candidate just to make sure we have time to get through everybody. And then we'll go down the list and hopefully get done by 11. Any questions before we begin? Any questions on Zoom? Okay. So I'm going to go in the order that Zoom is listing you for maximum fairness. So we will start with Ian Burke. So Ian Burke, go ahead and come off mute and on camera, and we'll get you on the screen here.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be with you. I'm sorry for not being there in person, but there's a couple of meetings today. My name is Ian Burke. I'm a judge at the Washington State Court of Appeals, and one of my law clerks is from and his family lives in Chehalis. So rest assured, I am getting a hard time about not being with you in person today. At the Court of Appeals, I have been a judge there since 2022, and I've written over 200 appellate opinions. I'm now running for Supreme Court Position 4. Before becoming an appellate judge, I was a lawyer in Washington for 20 years, where I represented individuals and small businesses in insurance denials, workplace discrimination, and consumer protection cases. I did that all across the state of Washington. And I was a volunteer lawyer as well. I spent more than 10 years volunteering with King County Bar Association neighborhood legal clinics, where I worked with tenants facing housing insecurity and consumers facing debt issues, among many other issues. I'm a product exclusively of Washington Public Schools. I'm a 5th generation Washingtonian, and I went to the University of Washington for college and law. All of that shapes how I see the law. It has to work, and it has to be accessible to everyday, ordinary Washingtonians. And that's who I frankly spent the mainstay of my 20 years representing. I'm endorsed in this race, I'm proud to say, by a broad coalition of people from across the state. I'm endorsed by the Washington Education Association, teachers from all across Washington, by the State Labor Council, by the Aerospace Machinists, by the Transit Workers Union, by the Federation of State Employees, by the UAW, by Attorney General Nick Brown. And I'm endorsed by 8 justices of the Washington Supreme Court, current and former, including a majority of the current Supreme Court. And I'm endorsed by more than 100 judges across the state. I'm especially proud that I'm endorsed by more than 30 appellate judges who are elected from all 39 counties in the state of Washington, including Judge Bernard Veljacek from Vancouver and Judge Ann Cruiser from Kelso. And finally, last but not least, by any means, I'm endorsed by the Thurston Lewis Mason Labor Council. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm running, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. Does anyone have any questions? Dan, come up to the mic if you would, just so everyone can hear. Stay away from the speaker.
Okay. Just following the news, I know the current issue with the Washington Supreme Court, people are going to look at how they think you would vote on the state income tax for millionaires. I know you shouldn't judge it from this position, but any comments on that? Just any comments?
Nope. We get that question all the time, and quite with great frequency. And we can't take a position on an issue. And the reason we can't take a position on an issue is that we are nonpartisan, objective kind of umpires. And the problem is, if we start taking positions on issues, it creates an environment that's just not fair to anyone who might want to make a different argument. The core of what we do in the judicial branch of government is that we entertain open-mindedness and hear the arguments that people want to bring us based on reason and law. And, like at the Court of Appeals, we call the decisions we make opinions. They're not my opinion. It's our best determination as a panel of judges of what Washington law is, based on the people's right to govern themselves through constitutional democratic processes. And so what we really are is we are neutral. We're neutrals to whom society can bring its problems, and that's the core of an independent judiciary. It's the core of the rule of law, and what we're defending here in these judicial races is the idea that in the long run is good for the country, to have people who step out of politics, who have no dog in any fight, and will just do their best to help the people govern themselves in a fair way. And so for that reason, I can't answer that question, even though it sometimes seems like it would just be simpler to ask a judge how they're going to rule.
Our video froze that.
Thank you, Ian. Oh, did it?
Yeah, I hope.
While we fix that, is there another question for Ian? All right, I'll go ahead and ask one that I'm going to ask every candidate for Supreme Court. What's the court's biggest challenge facing once you get up there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? It was a little broken up.
Sorry about that. What's the court's challenge as you get up there into the court?
The biggest challenge facing our Supreme Court, in my view, is the turnover. We have a lot of retirements at the court. There are going to be 5 positions on the ballot this November. That's unprecedented. We have some new people there now, and we just have experienced justices who are retiring. And long run, what I think we need at the court are people with appellate experience. I argued appeals as a lawyer. I argued precedent-setting appeals that created and protected consumer rights. I've now written decisions at the Court of Appeals that have made Washington common law across the state, protecting workers' rights and class action rights are a couple that come to mind. I was a law clerk at the Washington Supreme Court for Justice Susan Owens when I started my career, so I don't come to the court as a stranger, as it were. And I just think that we really need judges who come in kind of understanding the appellate process and knowing how to write good, solid, and fair appellate opinions from the start. So I think that's our court. I'll just say one more thing and I'll stop talking. But, our court has a very high reputation among state Supreme Courts. It's been followed by other states. It's looked to by other states as a leader. And, we need to uphold the good job it's doing for our state with people who come in with the right experience to do the job from day one. So that's my answer to that. It occurred to me, I left out about half my endorsements. I should have mentioned I'm also endorsed by King County Democrats, Spokane County Democrats, Snohomish County Democrats, and Skagit County Democrats, along with Democrats in 17 legislative districts all across the state of Washington. So I'm sorry for leaving that out. But thank you all.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. And one more time, the position you're running for?
Position 4.
Position 4. Thank you, Ian. All right. Moving on here down the list, we will go next to Jamie Hawk.
Good morning, all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be with you. I am Judge Jamie Hawk. I am running for Washington Supreme Court Position 3, which is one of the other 2 open seats due to upcoming retirements that Judge Burke was just mentioning. So there will be four seats on your ballot for the primary, 5 for the general. And again, I'm running for position 3. For more than 20 years, I have been a legal leader in our state, working to expand access to justice. I have served Washingtonians as a state and federal public defender, an adjunct law professor, an attorney with the ACLU of Washington, and now as a Superior Court judge. I am the only candidate seeking your endorsement for this position who has lived and worked all across the state of Washington. I lived in Spokane. I've represented all of central and eastern Washington. In Grant County, I represented juveniles on a reform project. And for the ACLU of Washington, I was based in King County and worked all across the state. And it's important to have a justice that brings that statewide perspective and experience and understanding the unmet legal needs and different justice issues that exist in our state. I am the first attorney from the ACLU of Washington to become a judge in our state. At the ACLU, I helped lead our legal work to tackle mass incarceration, racial disparities, and expand voting rights. As a current Superior Court judge, I presided over hundreds of criminal, civil, family law cases, as well as appeals from lower courts. I currently serve on our Washington Supreme Court Minority and Justice Commission, helping advance court reforms and improving fairness and public trust in our courts statewide. I was raised by a single mom. I attended public schools. I'm the first in my family to go to college. After graduating from Gonzaga for college, I worked as an advocate for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And those experiences helped shape my lifelong commitment to fairness, dignity, and equal justice under the law. I'm running for the Washington Supreme Court because this moment calls for experienced, independent judges who understand both how the law works and how court decisions affect people's everyday lives. I have the sole endorsement of Governor Ferguson, Congresswoman Jayapal in this race. I'm also endorsed by Justices Whitener, Yu, and Ireland, and over 100 current and retired judges and justices from across the state. Also endorsed by the Washington State Labor Council, the National Women's Political Caucus, numerous local and county Democratic organizations, Fair Vote Washington, and I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the Thurston Lewis Mason Labor Council. Supreme Court races have never been more important. We need justices who have a track record of protecting constitutional rights and improving access to our courts. And that candidate is me, and I would be honored to have your endorsement.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jamie. I'll open the floor for a couple questions. What do you think the biggest challenge is on the court right now, Jamie?
So I would say there's so many. I mean, I agree with Judge Burke. There will be a lot of turnover, but it's also an exciting time to have some new perspectives and folks coming to the court that have trial experience. Like I mentioned, my background in civil rights and public defense. We need a diversity of perspectives on our court. It will make our court the strongest. But there are so many access to justice challenges that exist in our state. And one of the things that I tell folks is it's important to understand that the work of a Supreme Court justice, about half of the work is resolving the cases that come before the court, and the other half is providing statewide leadership, tackling administration of justice issues, representing the judiciary as a whole, getting all around the state, making sure our court is open and accessible to all the communities that it serves. And for over 20 years, I've been doing that work. I've worked in coalition and partnership with communities in every corner of Washington. And I just think it's really important that we have that perspective, tackling our ongoing struggles to just make sure our court is open and serving everyone and all Washingtonians.
Perfect, thank you. One more chance for a question? Oh, yes.
I would like to know the makeup of the Supreme Court in regard to liberal and conservative.
Did you catch that, Jamie?
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
He would like to know the makeup of the court in regards to liberal and conservative.
So, as judges, you'll hear this from us. We can't identify and be a member of any political parties, and so, and that label is there's a tendency to want to apply that label to us. And I would say it's very important to look at our track records, look at how we spent our careers. As lawyers, we make a lot of choices about who we represent and where we work, the types of cases that we work on. I've spent my entire career representing individuals up against powerful interests in the trenches as a public defender and a civil rights attorney. Never worked for a big corporate law firm or, defending the federal government or other entities. So it's just really important to dig into our records and look at that track record. So the other thing I would say is we've lost a few women on our court, and so I'm proud to be one of the couple of women candidates that are running. And this race could depend if we maintain a female majority on our court or not. Oh, sorry, did it freeze? I can't hear anything.
Uh-oh. I still got you on my phone, Jamie. Hold on one sec.
Oh, thanks.
Just having some internet trouble, y'all. Just hang in there with. Hey, sorry about. What was the bill number again?
SB 5375.
SB 5375 was the question. And that was
That was a child protection.
the child protection bill, and have you followed it? Have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Was that a question for me?
Yes. Did you catch any of it?
No. Could you repeat that?
So the child protection bill that was in the Senate, did you follow that and have any thoughts on it?
SB 5375.
SB 5375.
I'm so sorry. I serve on our Minority and Justice Commission, and I serve on our Court Rule and Legislation Committee. And so we divide up all of the bills in the legislature and try to track those. And then if it's appropriate for us to comment, and if we think we can help improve the law in some way, we do. But I apologize. I'm not familiar with that bill. I'm not sure what it was proposing. Oh no, I think it's breaking up again. Can you hear me?
Carrie, Jamie. We're going to move on to the next candidate. No worries.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. Next up, we have Judge Sharonda Amamillo, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can't for now.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Judge Sharonda Amamillo. I was elected to the Thurston County Superior Court in 2020, and I was the first African American to be elected as a judge in Thurston County. I served, and my career has been a life of service. I began my service to this nation in the military. I will be the only veteran in this race and the only veteran on the court if I am successful to be elected. I retired after almost 30 years in the military intelligence as a Chief Warrant Officer 4. That was my reserve career. Alongside my legal career. What drove me to the law was my children were having some difficulties in school related to academic kind of testing and labeling and things like that. And I became a lawyer for the purpose of learning more about how to help my family. That's what drove me to law school. But I intended to continue my work as at Bates Technical College as I was a member of the union. I served as the grievance committee chair and worked on the collective bargaining agreements with my union. And then once I finished my law degree, and I went to law school at night, once I finished my law degree, I learned so much about how many different ways I could help people. In my legal career, I then became a public defender after testing the waters in terms of private practice, representing small businesses, representing families in crisis, and juveniles in the criminal system. I learned that I could better serve people if I became a member of a team. I joined the Thurston County Public Defender's Office in 2007. And in that role, I ultimately became leadership in the Public Defender's Office, where I served as the senior defense attorney for parent representation in child welfare cases, juvenile justice, juvenile representation for juvenile offenders, as well as child support enforcement and involuntary commitment for those struggling with mental health. During my role at the Public Defender's Office, I learned that failing systems are what brought people to the court, hearkening back to what I felt was happening to my children in school. And so I was a member of the statewide opioid work group as a defense representative alongside prosecutors and legislators, just working to determine what we could do as a system to help people not end up addicted to opioids at the time. And then I started doing work with the Administrative Office of the Courts and the Office of Public Defense, testifying at the legislature regarding what was happening on the ground with people and how legislative action, when turned into law, then what exactly is happening to bring relief. During my work, I again learned that higher upstream is where you get the more information about what you're doing. And so I left the Public Defender's Office in 2019 to become a sole public defender for youth in foster care, so that I could start talking to the administration of DCYF, so I could start talking to the administration of juvenile rehabilitation, so I can learn more about what those decisions are being made and how they were impacting families and communities. And in that role, the Office of Civil Legal Aid decided that I would be a lead attorney, a training attorney. So I had a half contract in South King County and a half contract in Lewis County, so that I could compare and collect data and show them how the decisions they were making were impacting these people in the different communities. And that lens that Lewis County gave me about what you all deal with when you are trying to support your families, it's like one big happy family until it's not. And so the main thing that I learned is that the perspectives of the rural community cannot be overlooked when we're making big policy decisions. After representing youth in foster care, I decided to run for the Superior Court of Thurston County. And in that role, my first 4 years, I served in the adult felony side, jury trials on complex civil litigation, state impact cases. I'm the only candidate in the race who has that experience, where we are the appellate body for the Office of Administrating Hearings. And so when the state agencies, all the different state agencies have cases that go through the Office of Administrative Hearings, those cases appealed by either the state or the citizen of Washington who disagrees, those cases are appealed to the Thurston County Superior Court. And so I have experience making decisions of statewide impact. I also decided that I needed to understand other ancillary things. So as a public defender and now as a judge, I am sure that I always have a membership in where I am learning about human trafficking and how that might show up in courts. And As a public defender, I was on the board of the Washington State Anti-Trafficking Association. And then as a judge, I'm now on a national peer-to-peer network so that I can make sure that I know what human trafficking might look like when it shows up in a family law case or a child custody case or a child welfare case or juvenile case. And then finally, I think it's important to note that that systems knowledge, it's only as good as the information that you have about the impact of the decision that you're making. Having served as a visiting judge in Grays Harbor County, having served as a visiting judge in Mason County, I've been on the statewide Sentencing Guidelines Commission since 2022, and that work focuses on ensuring that the sentences and the grid and the sentencing grid and the alternative sentences really reflect what's going on the ground in terms of how prosecutors are making decisions, how judges are making decisions, and then what we are doing when it comes to rehabilitating and preparing people for reentry into your communities. We make recommendations as a body to the legislature. We make recommendations as a body to the governor's office. I also serve on the a 2-year work group for jail systems across this state, rural, urban, suburban, and we wrote a report that was submitted to the legislature regarding whether or not they should reconstitute the Jail Standards Commission, because we learned about the disparities and the lack of resources, especially in the rural communities. And again, that rural lens is important for big policy makers to have, as well as for the Supreme Court to have when cases come to the Supreme Court about things that are happening all over Washington state. And then finally, I'd like to talk about the importance of all these systems. I also currently serve on the DCYF Oversight Board since September of 2025, and that is in the representative capacity as a judicial officer with particular expertise and extensive experience in child welfare law, which, as you can hear, I have. I bring that lens, and I'm the only candidate that brings that lens, especially in my own race. It's very important for you all, as Judge Hogg mentioned, to look into the backgrounds. Who has the breadth and scope of work that directly impacts Washingtonians? And if you look in my race, I have the breadth and depth and scope of work that would inform the Supreme Court about what happens in court for Washingtonians. We're all colleagues, so I can say that the record that goes before the Court of Appeals, the record that goes before the Supreme Court, is the record that the Superior Court makes. We are the appellate body for all lower courts, district court, and municipal court. And in my race, I am the only candidate with that level of experience that would create the record that goes before the Supreme Court. And then finally, I'd like to say, as it relates to the tiers of law, in the Superior Court, we are every day making constitutionally impacting decisions where we are applying our statutory law that has been deemed constitutional. We're applying court rules that have been deemed constitutional. We're applying case history that has been deemed constitutional. So everyday application of the Constitution is happening in the Superior Court, as well as preparing the record that goes before the appellate court, understanding what it takes to make an appellate defensive record. I think it's important to have that lens on the court. And you will have decisions to make when you're looking at that body of work. You will have decisions to make when you're looking at the candidate pool, and you'll decide how important it is to you to have a lens in the court that has relevant state trial court experience and relevant state judging experience. I think it's a very important perspective to consider, and I would wholeheartedly be appreciative of the endorsement if I were to receive it from your group. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Judge Amamillo. Any questions from the audience? What position is she? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat your position?
Yes. Thank you. I'm Judge Sharonda Amamillo, and I'm running for Supreme Court position number 5.
Any questions?
Same one. Did you follow SB 5375 and other any thoughts?
Did you follow SB 5375 and did you have any thoughts on it?
We get lots of SBs presented to us in DCYF Oversight Board. So they normally come with a synopsis of the purpose of the bill. So can you say what that is, please?
This is clergy mandatory.
It's the clergy mandatory reporting law. Are you familiar with that one?
The question, I do remember that one. And the question he had is, what are my thoughts on the bill?
Yeah, if you had any thoughts on that, Bill.
I deal with a lot of mandatory reporting, and as a judicial officer, I'm required to follow the law as it is written unless it is otherwise addressed by the Supreme Court to deem what the interpretation should be. My thoughts are, to the extent that we can mitigate any harms to children, then proposals that in the spirit of the proposals, that is what they're trying to do, what the law ultimately allows for, whether or not that is a constitutional perspective, is the Supreme, that falls, then it goes to the next step of the Supreme Court purview. And then whatever the Supreme Court decides, the trial courts have to follow. And so I have to answer it in that way because ethically, that is the way I think about it. As a judicial officer now, being almost 6 years as a Superior Court judge, I think it's very important that I allow for as broad a lens as possible for people to bring the fact pattern to the court so that the court has a specific fact pattern that is then developing the appellate record that then goes up to the Supreme Court. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Judge. And then the same question I asked the other candidates, what is the biggest challenge facing the Supreme Court right now?
I would say, I know people like to use the term diversity of thought, right? But I think it's important for people to understand that we have a model for supporting diversity of the judiciary. We have the jury pool selection process. Even before we had the new GR 37, we always, as a community, support the notion that you are to be judged by a jury of your peers. And if that is still a valid perspective for you to consider, then you think about the jury, the justice system or the judiciary in the same way, in that it is representative of all Washingtonians. And when you look at the backgrounds of people, you look at the scope of work, but you also look at the actual lived experience, and people who may or may not look the same have different lived experiences. And so I think it's important for you to consider that. I am endorsed by Justice Whitener. I am endorsed by Justice Yu, and we represent three distinct lived experiences that inform the way we take in information. I just give that as example. I am also endorsed by different big labor, and I will put you can go to my website and I can put that in the in the chat, but I think also your organizers have that information. But I think that's the important piece, is that the access to justice issues from all the systems that I talked about in the experience that I have are informed also from my life experiences. I hail from rural North Carolina. I hail from a rural community like yours. So I understand the family perspectives that you all bring to your everyday lives. And those things may not otherwise be in the room if a judge like myself wasn't there to bring them up. Like, what about there's 9 people in the room. One person makes a comment, one person makes a comment, and all those perspectives come together. And that's the best way to serve the people of Washington, with that diversity of lived experience, diversity of body, diversity of the process of being ready to serve all Washingtonians on the Supreme Court. And I believe my work has not been a pursuit of any particular thing other than to be as helpful as I possibly can by knowing my impact in the system when I'm representing someone and when I'm judging something. I endeavor to make sure I'm fully informed. Even yesterday, I was in Lewis County at your Family Reunification Day, picking up more information about services to people. So I think access to all of the perspectives that embody Washingtonians, but also making sure that lived experience is on the Supreme Court to ensure access to justice happens. And I yield back.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judge Amamillo.
You're welcome.
All right, looks like we have one more candidate on Zoom, Mike Diaz.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Everybody, yeah? If you can give me maybe a thumbs up. Yeah, you can hear me all the way in the back. Great. Thanks, everybody. My name is Mike Diaz. I'm a judge, like Judge Burke, on the Court of Appeals for Washington State. And I'm a candidate for the state Supreme Court, position number 3. Since immigrating here from Peru, I've lived nearly my entire life in this community of Western Washington. I've been in the law for over 25 years, 10 as a federal civil rights lawyer, and I'm in my 9th year of judging. And never before have I seen the rule of law under attack, judges under physical threats, and the federal government trying to take away our rights as I have seen now. Never have I seen the opportunities I had as a kid, even growing up in the working class neighborhoods of Seattle as an immigrant of indigenous descent. I've never seen those opportunities being threatened as I have now. I think it's our state government. I think it's our state courts in particular who will protect our rights in this Washington and will provide the next generation the same shot I had as a kid to fulfill my potential. And I'll tell you a little bit about why that's so remarkable. My dad was raised in the slums of Lima, Peru by a single teenage mom. And by slums, I mean a dirt hut with a dirt floor, 7 kids. He went to work at age 7, didn't own a pair of shoes till age 9, and he never owned a toy as a kid. When he got here, he washed dishes. He cleaned some of the buildings I later worked in as a lawyer. But he went to community college, North Seattle Community College, and he became a machinist for Boeing for 25 years. My mom was also 1 of 12 in a 2-bedroom apartment in Lima. When she got here, she stocked shelves at Safeway. She was a seamstress in Belltown. Well, she also went to North Seattle, got her AA, and went on to UW, got her BA, and became a special ed teacher for 20 years, over 20 years in the Seattle Public Schools. I can honestly say that my family has lived a version of the immigrant's American dream, but that's a dream that's under threat, and that's a dream I want to fight for. And I've never been afraid to take the fight on for others. I was the assistant U.S. attorney at the Justice Department during the Obama administration who defended the rights and freedoms of our most vulnerable in housing, education, employment. I was also the AUSA, the assistant U.S. attorney who founded the Civil Rights Unit in Seattle. And I was one of the people who President Obama, if you remember him, nominated to be a federal judge for that work. But I was stymied by Mitch McConnell, who didn't let the nomination come to a hearing. And finally, I'm the only candidate in this field who's both been a trial court judge, a superior court judge, just like the last 2 people you just heard from, and an appellate court judge like Judge Burke. We both started together in 2022. And like Judge Burke, I've written over 200 opinions in all areas of the law. I'll be ready on day 1. And I think it's for that reason I'm supported by 3 governors, Inslee, Christine Gregoire, and Gary Locke, Attorney General Nick Brown, and those are all sole endorsements, 9 Supreme Court justices, including a majority of the Supreme Court, nearly my entire bench on the Court of Appeals statewide, including the 2 in Southwest Washington, Judge Veljacek and Cruiser, as you heard, and Superior Court judges from around the state, including in your own county, Andrew Toynbee. I'm also supported by labor. I'm the sole endorsement by the Washington Teachers, by the Washington Education Association, so the teachers union, and the Washington Federation of State Employees, as well as the Washington Labor Council, COPE. I've also been solely endorsed by the King County Democrats, the Skagit Democrats, and also endorsed by Spokane County Democrats and Snohomish County Democrats. I've also been endorsed by the 18th LD, which isn't too far from you all, but the district that covers North Vancouver up to Battleground. So the bottom line is I would love to receive your endorsement when the time comes so I can continue the fight for our rights and freedoms in the face of these historic assaults I was talking about, and to make sure my story and your children's story is still possible for the next generation of Washingtonians, wherever they happen to come from. So with that, I would love to answer your questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judge Diaz. Can you say your position again and then go ahead and answer the biggest challenge on the court question as well, please?
Yeah. So my position, again, is position number 3. It's the position I'm running for is position number 3, the same as Judge Hawk, who you heard from earlier this morning. And the biggest challenge in the court, I would say, is the lack of access to justice, and specifically the lack of lawyers. There's just a lack of people willing to do public defense work. There's a lack of people willing to do civil legal aid work, which means doing very important cases like family law, trusts and estates, those sorts of things. And it's especially pronounced in smaller counties and rural counties. I know this because I don't just serve on a commission, but I chair a commission called the Interpreter and Language Access Commission. We go all around the state and we hear from people who are having a hard time accessing the courts. It's for this reason that you may have heard there are public defender crises in Spokane, in Yakima. You might hear that it's hard to get a will places. It's hard to go find a family law lawyer if you're in need of a parenting plan or something like that. And I've done this kind of work. I worked on the consent decree involving the Seattle Police Department for over 8 years, where we made major changes to policy and training and systems of accountability. And I saw it through over 8 years. That track record of not just talking about problems and doing white papers or think pieces, but actually implementing them over time in windowless conference rooms like the ones you find yourself in right now. That's the kind of hard work that you have to do over a period of years. And I'd be honored and excited to be able to do that work, to try to improve people's access to the courts. Because our courts should be a place that are open to all people, regardless of where you come from, what you look like, or how much money you have. And that will be one of my primary goals if I'm lucky enough to get elected, and hopefully with your endorsement as a wind behind my sails.
Perfect. And we have one more question. Go ahead, Dan.
So you're running for the same position as Jamie Hawk, correct?
That's correct, sir.
What makes you better than Jamie Hawk?
It's a good question. I appreciate it. So I'll talk about, I think it's the depth and the quality of the experience I have. So I'll start as a lawyer. So I practiced law actively for 16 years. That means I was in court. I was doing all the lawyer things. I won't bore you with all the lawyer things, but 16 years at a very high level, including at the Justice Department. The vast majority of that time when Obama had appointed Eric Holder and other people to lead the Justice Department. And then I did both, as a lawyer, I did both civil and criminal law. So that means both criminal law, which you know, is people going to jail, and civil law, all the different things. And I was both plaintiff and defense. I wasn't pigeonholed into one area. As a judge now, I'm in my 9th year of judging. I did the job that the trial court judges have done. I sat in that seat as a Superior Court judge, and now I'm an appellate court judge. And I got to tell you, I agree with Judge Burke that it's just very different. Being an appellate court judge, what you do is you take the record from the trial courts, you do your legal research, then you do two very important things that a trial court judge never does, which is one, you engage in group decision making. I don't make just decisions by myself. I sit around a table, talk about what my research and analysis has led me to conclude about this case, but I do that with an open mind to see what my colleagues on the bench think about the case before I start forming an opinion. Finally, then I hear from lawyers, and then maybe most importantly, and this really is the key part of the job, is writing opinions. I've been on 700 panels in my almost 4 years on the appellate court bench. I've written over 200 opinions, 25 of which have been published in all areas of the law. That's why I'll be ready on day one. And with the big issues coming down the pike, and some of them have been alluded to, right? The transparency of that state bill that was mentioned a couple of times, the millionaire's tax. I think you want judges who are going to be ready to do the job on day one. And that's why I think I am not just the most qualified person in my race. I could be one of the more qualified people in the entire field because I've been both a trial court judge and appellate court judge. And finally, I teach a course at Seattle University Law School, literally called Washington Constitutional Law. I teach when we don't need to rely on our federal laws, our federal constitution, and when we can rely on our state constitution exclusively. Those are big issues. Those are the issues that are going to be coming down the pike over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, and I literally teach courses on that. So I appreciate the question, and those would be my differentiators. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Diaz. All right, I think that was the last of our candidates on Zoom. If I missed you, please speak up now. Making sure. Great. Great, so I think we're done with the Zoom candidates. If you are still on Zoom as a candidate, you are welcome to leave. You do not need to stick with us through the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much for presenting. And then is there any Supreme Court candidates in the room today? Okay. Anyone want to be one? No, I'm kidding. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to a different race, which is going to be a local race for coroner And I believe we have two candidates today. Let's go. You walked in the room first, so we're going to go ahead and start with you. Come on up when you're ready. Just don't stand under the speaker, you'll get very loud noise.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Staley. I am candidate for Lewis County Coroner. I have lived in Lewis County since 2005, and I have been in the death investigation field since 2009. I have simultaneously served the community as a mental health professional. So I've supported individuals through some of life's most difficult times throughout that time period. My campaign rests upon three simple values. That's compassion, service, and prevention. I aim to ensure that we can, I can hear myself echoing, it's kind of funny. No, it's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
So I aim to strengthen investigative practices so that every family can ensure that they are provided accurate and clear answers to the cases that they are included on. I would like to improve communication with local law enforcement and first responders so that we can improve communication and transparency with the public. And I also aim to put a good amount of focus on prevention. I think that the coroner's office can do more than the aftercare to death. I believe that we can preserve life as well. So partnering with community agencies to work on better practices for prevention is something that I believe is a responsibility of the coroner. My education, I have a master's degree in studies in human behavior. I have a certificate from the Harvard Medical School in positive psychology. I am a delegate with the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. I am a member of the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. I have, a Washington State certificate for forensic investigation. I am trained in sudden unexpected infant death investigations and am FEMA certified for emergency management incident commands.
Perfect. Any questions?
What did you say your name again?
Yeah, Jessica Stickley, and candidate for Lewis County Coroner.
Questions for Jessica? Dan?
Have you been following the lawsuit that the current coroner is involved in? Do you have any comments on that?
I am aware of the lawsuit that is currently in place. I don't know that it's my place to place too much comment on that, other than I do believe that there can be some improvements within the office in order to ensure that future incidents don't happen. Having discussions with staff about appropriate boundaries or whatever that might be that has led up to the current issue at place.
What kind of organizations and I suppose other community services do you plan to work with for prevention? And what kind of prevention of deaths are you focusing on or trying to, I guess, prevent?
Yeah, good question. So I think that there's a really broad scope of how deaths can be prevented and avoided. There's the obvious points of preventing completed suicides and completed overdoses or accidental deaths. That is partnering with local behavioral health agencies to have some transparency about the trends that we're seeing within the office that have led to those deaths, and partnering with them to provide the statistics so that maybe they can take a look at the services that they're providing and where gaps can be filled for services in the community to be provided. I think that there's also a large scope within smaller organizations that might have a contribution to other types of accidental or whether it's violent deaths. So it's partnering with domestic violence shelter programs, local driving schools to prevent distracted driving or other driving related deaths, infant car seat standards, discussing partnering with things like the senior center and preventing older adult deaths. Slips and falls lead to an increased demise in an older adult population. So seeing how we can improve situations such as that as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. We're going to stick with 2 questions per candidate today, guys. Thank you very much. All right, and then I believe we have Chelsea. If you want to come on up. I can fix this sound thing for you. Nope. You're going to hear yourself a little bit through the phone, sorry.
That's great. Oh, we're good. I'm up anyway. No problem. Hello there. My name is Chelsea Nimzik, and I'm running for Lewis County Coroner.
Can't hear you.
So sorry. My name is Chelsea Nimzik, and I'm running for Lewis County Coroner. So I have spent nearly half of my life passionately serving families in our community. I began volunteering at a local funeral home while attending high school, a commitment that has grown into more than a decade of service to families navigating loss and uncertainty. That experience shaped the educational, volunteer, and professional opportunities I pursued and inspired my dedication to medical, legal, death investigation, and compassionate public service. My experience in funeral service, death investigation, autopsy assistance has provided me with a unique perspective on serving families and investigating deaths. I have worked for several funeral homes in Lewis County, served as an autopsy technician for multiple forensic pathologists, and dedicated my career to the Lewis County Coroner's Office. I have served in nearly every role within the Coroner's Office beginning in 2018 as a Reserve Deputy Coroner, working my way up to now serving as the current Chief Deputy Coroner. These roles have given me firsthand knowledge of medical legal death investigations, forensic processes, office administration, and compassionate service to families. As Chief Deputy Coroner, I play a key role in managing the daily operations of the office while remaining actively involved in investigations. I regularly respond to scenes as an investigator or supervisor. I coordinate staff schedules, arrange autopsies, and forensic consults. I assist with budget management, process invoices and expenditures, maintain case records and documentation, and work closely with first responders, healthcare providers, funeral homes, and other community partners. I help manage the secure handling and documentation of evidence and personal property to ensure proper chain of custody are maintained throughout the investigative process. I also serve as the office's safety officer, helping promote safe work practices, regulatory compliance, and well-being of our personnel. Training and mentoring are among my highest priorities. I am instructor for a Reserve Deputy Coroner program and provide both field and operational training for our Reserve deputies. I continue to invest in growth and development of our paid staff as well, helping ensure our personnel as well prepare to serve the residents of Lewis County with professionalism and proficiency. I also consistently lead presentations for local high schools and college students, sharing information about our office, our duties and functions, and of course, death investigation. I am a certified diplomate of the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators and have completed core training through the WCJTC. I go out of my way to attend multiple job-related trainings and conferences each year as I remain committed to continuing education and maintaining the highest professional standards in death investigation. Community education is another part of my service. I have presented at high school career days, educational programs, including Expanding Your Horizons, TRIO programs, the Citizens Academy, high school DUI and distracted driving awareness presentations. I believe investigation, prevention, and the role of the coroner's office helps strengthen our community and hopefully inspires future public servants. I am also included with Cribs for Kids. What that program does is we went to prevent co-sleeping deaths, which is unfortunately the #1 in infant deaths. We go to local hospitals if a mother is just now having a child, and we provide them with a pack and play where they can have their kids safely. I also present at Aloha Driving School to tell them the dangers, again, with distracted driving and drunk driving. Through my involvement with the Lewis County Citizen Team and Lewis County Peer Support, I help provide support and resources to first responders, professionals, and other community members affected by traumatic incidents. I am also certified through the ICISF, having completed specialized training in crisis intervention and peer support. This training has strengthened my ability to assist individuals coping with traumatic events and reinforces my belief in compassion, communication, and emotional support are essential components of public service. I have spent years serving the community in multiple capacities. Having served in nearly every role within the office, I understand the operational and administrative responsibilities involved. I believe my long-term dedication and combined experience in death investigation, autopsy assistant, administrative and in-field leadership, professional certifications, instructional responsibilities, and community involvement has prepared me to lead the Lewis County Coroners Office with confidence. Above all, I will continue my mission to treat every individual and their families I have the privilege of serving with dignity, respect, and compassion while upholding the professionalism, accountability, and integrity our community expects and deserves. My devotion to the people of Lewis County began nearly 15 years ago and has only grown stronger with time. I have never stepped away from serving our community, and I intend to continue doing so for as long as I am able.
Thank you, Chelsea. Questions for Chelsea? Go ahead.
So I noticed you and the other candidate used two different terms for your ADMDI certification. So what is the difference between delegate and diploma?
To my understanding,
We can't hear anything.
Sorry, to my understanding, with delegate, that is somebody that represents an organization. A diploma is somebody that has passed an advanced certification on the level that is required.
One more.
What would you change?
Actually, yes. So I will say I'm not running to radically change this direction, but to continue building on the foundation by investing in professional development, community outreach, public education, and maintaining open communication with families, partner agencies, and the public in accordance with the law. However, I believe effective leadership begins with listening, consideration, and understanding. If anyone feels that something in our office needs to be worked on, changed, or added to our work, I would welcome constructive feedback from our citizens, partner agencies, and employees because diverse perspectives help identify opportunities for improvement and strengthen the services we provide. An elected official is elected by the people for the people.
All right. Thank you, Chelsea. Okay. Anyone else want to run for coroner? All right, you're lost. All right, we're going to move on to our state house races today. Let's see. I know I saw Terry. I saw Andy. Is Kevin here? Okay, no worries. And then we've got Evan online, and I think we're going to go ahead and start with him here. One moment. There we go. All right, Evan, if you can hear me, go ahead and turn your camera on, and we're ready for your presentation.
All right, guys, can you see me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. So, my name is Evan Jones. I'm a union tradesman. I'm a veteran. I'm the Port of Longview's commissioner. I'm a husband and a father of 2 little girls. I commute about 110 miles a day for work from Kelso to Hillsboro because I love my trade and because, frankly, there are not any jobs where I live that I can earn that kind of money. So first and foremost, I'm running to fix the broken permitting system that we've got. This has been a problem throughout the 20th, but a big problem down in the part of the 20th where we live, or where I live. We've seen a lot of big projects come in that get killed during the environmental permitting stage. And while I certainly respect the needs of the environment, because I live in it and I live on a river, I want my daughters to be able to play in the river. Not drink out of it because we're not stupid, but they should be able at least to play in it without getting a rash. But when these projects get killed, they're often getting killed for reasons that make sense in King County or in Seattle, and they don't make sense down here. And what a lot of these people also fail to remember is that they get built somewhere else. A methanol plant was supposed to be built here. It would have been probably about $1 billion facility, thousands of jobs, and it was killed at the last minute by a direct intervention from Governor Inslee, and it was built in Mexico. So oftentimes I feel like we're cutting off our nose to spite our face here. If it was built here, we would have been able to control the emissions. We would have been able to hold the company accountable. As it stands, I mean, I hope Mexico will do that, but we're certainly not in control of it. As a Port of Longview commissioner, one of the things that I've had to deal with is there's a contractor down in Southwest Washington called Rachi. Some of you may have heard of them. They've been in the news. This is a company that got special dispensation to have minor workers on their construction sites. This is not something that's normally allowed because construction sites are very dangerous and teenagers are stupid. They had very strict rules that they were supposed to follow when they had these kids on their site. They were responsible for the lives of these kids. And one of these kids was operating a trencher, which he was not allowed to operate. They weren't even allowed to operate power drills, and had been given about 5 minutes of training from another miner, and then was operating it completely unsupervised. Obviously, all of these things were in violation of the rules that they were given. And when he went to check the depth on his trench, he did it the way he was taught, which was to put his foot in the trench for some reason. But because they had zip tied the dead man switch on the trencher shut, it was still running. His foot got caught, and he suffered a almost instant double amputation. It was bad enough that, and they were out far enough that he did not call 911. He called his mom. And when an LNI did an investigation, they found this was one of 330 other child labor violations. The max fine that they got for this was $273,000. Now, that's a lot of money to you and me, but that is not a lot of money to a company like this. So we have the right laws. They were found guilty of all these things that they did, but they don't have any teeth. So I'm running because I'd like to change that. And because when I wrote the guy I'm running against, Ed Orcutt, to ask why he opposed a bill that would have prevented companies like Rachi from bidding on public works, to his credit, he responded, but his response was, well, that could drive a company out of business. And to say that motivated me would be an understatement. So I'm here. I'm sorry, first of all, that I'm not there in person. I've been knocking on a lot of doors recently and getting home pretty late, so I must have slept through my alarm or something. It's not an excuse, just a reason why I suck. But other than that, we're trying to flip a very heavy R district. I'm aware of that, and the only way that's going to happen is with all of your help. Generally speaking, I pride myself on showing up. I'm pretty darn embarrassed. I'm not doing it right now. But you all show up as well. You're in this meeting, and you're the kind of people that I'll be counting on to do this. I'm going to need, frankly, a lot of volunteer hours. The 20th is a big damn place, and I only know my little corner of it. So I need to talk to all of you to find out what you need from your representative and what I need to do to win. And I'm going to need, frankly, for those of you who can, I'm going to need help knocking doors, making phone calls, putting up signs, all these things that, I just don't have time to do all of them. So this doesn't happen without you guys, and that's why I need your approval and your support. That's all I got for now. I'm happy to take any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Evan. And don't feel embarrassed. You did show up. You're right here on our screen. So
I know. All the better representatives came in person.
You know who's not here is our actual representatives.
Well, that's fair.
What are your thoughts on child labor in general?
I'm all for teenagers having an opportunity to get skills, but I think that needs to be in a very tightly controlled environment that keeps them safe and keeps their education being put first. This is coming from somebody who worked a full-time job from the day he turned 15. Now, granted, I did most of that to spite my father because that's just the kind of teenager I was. He told me to get a job, and I said, okay, fine, to hell with you, I will. So I worked swing shift all through high school because he said he would come pick me up. I also intentionally delayed getting my license, so he had to keep coming and picking me up at 12:30 at night. But I probably shouldn't have been allowed to do that. And honestly, my grades suffered for it. So I would not like to see kids doing that.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear what position he's running for.
Oh, he's running against Ed Orcutt, and is he position 1 or 2? I don't remember.
He's position 2 in the 20th. I'm sorry, you didn't hear that because I didn't say it.
Another question? Go ahead, sir.
What role does OSHA play in instances such as you just stated?
In Washington State, OSHA is not necessarily the relevant agency. We have the Department of Labor and Industries that tends to cover down on all of these things. They handle our investigations. They handle our fines, and so they're generally the agency on the state level that matters here. OSHA can come in as well, but I think anybody who works in the construction trades like I do will tell you that OSHA is a pain in the ass, but they're not really all that scary, at least compared to the state.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Evan. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to another candidate. We'll go ahead and go with Terry. Come on up. Same side of the freeway.
I'm opposite side.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Whatever. Can't keep you all straight.
You're military, so I have the same side.
Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good? Okay. Well, I didn't really prepare anything, so I'm going to be just as surprised as you guys about what I say. So my name's Terry Carlson. That does that all the time. Don't worry. I'm running for state rep in the 19th position 2 against Joel McIntyre again, which I'm pretty sure we all know who Joel McIntyre is. And I like to call him the biggest asshole in the legislature. I know he's been costing you guys a lot of money here lately, potentially with this corner thing, because he was kind of the one who spearheaded everything on it. But yeah, that's just one of the many things he's done. And the other things he hasn't done, he's just an irrelevant no vote on the other side, and the 19th suffers for it. We have the highest unemployment rate of any legislative district in the state. We have the highest suicide rate of any legislative district in the state, and we have the lowest life expectancy of any legislative district in the state. So clearly our representatives aren't doing what we need them to do for us. So, I mean, things really haven't changed in 2 years, guys. We all still have the same problems. Housing is one of them. Affordability is one of them. Jobs is one of them. So, I mean, these are all things that our representatives don't go and do. So we need to think outside of the box. Like Evan said, we need to redo the permitting process, because right now it is harder to get a building permit in Washington State than it is in California. That's holding up projects. That's holding up housing. I'm not saying to gut it totally, but we need to streamline that process and maybe make some checks and balances so there's not multiple agencies requiring different things. So that way, when a project comes up, there's a streamlined process that they need to do this, 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 and this to get their project going. Not, well, let's do this and see how it works, and then we'll come back and review it. I mean, you're not going to get a business to commit to coming here for that. Another issue that we've had is I know down in the 19th in Longview, which, you know, we have a very busy port down there. We had a very big contract that was supposed to come in. It was a DOD contract. We signed, you know, NDA, so I can't really talk a whole lot about it. But the product, we were we were on the top 3 for picking that, but we couldn't provide the power that they needed. So we found out that our electrical grid is a problem here. You know, projects are going away because we can't provide the power. So we need to start, instead of relying on the federal government to give us our power, we need to start thinking about how we can provide our own power. There's lots of green ways to provide power that is going to make jobs, make it renewable power that, you know, is sustainable for all of us, so we don't have to rely on outside agencies to provide us these things we need in our infrastructure. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer.
What's your last name?
Carlson. And if you would like, I have signs in the back, I have buttons, I have stickers, I have sign-up sheets, I have donation forms. I mean, this is this is a grassroots campaign, guys. I mean, so if you are interested in getting Joel out of office, please donate. You know, these things don't run on hopes and dreams. I go through sidewalks home to get hit by a car so I can afford campaign signs.
Questions for Terry, anyone? Ray says, when's your next open mic?
Whenever you guys will have me. I like to run my mouth. That's why I'm a union guy.
All right, thank you, sir. Andy's on. Make your way on up here. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Zahn, and I'm running for the 20th Legislative District, Position 1, against Peter Abarno. And a little bit about me. I grew up on a small farm in Toutle, Washington, just south of the border of Lewis County. I spent a long time, many hours in my youth hauling hay here in Lewis County. And really have just lived my entire life in this rural region of the state. I worked for a little bit at Mount St. Helens up there at the monument with the U.S. Forest Service, and now am a professional writer and photographer. I'm running on my campaign on some big ideas. I really want the state to invest in rural areas such as Lewis County. I think there are some really major things that the state could do to really revitalize rural regions. A big one is creating new parks for communities such as Chehalis and Centralia. A few years ago, there was a proposal from the WDFW to create a really large wildlife area out at the old TransAlta coal mine, and that would have been an amazing place. And few people really know what it's like out there. Back at the time when that was being proposed, I actually went out there and flew my drone up and take a look at it, and it is a spectacular landscape of rolling meadows and many lakes. And it's a shame that got shot down by right-wing politicians here in the area. It would have done a lot for this community, I believe. And that's just one of many parks which I would like to create for rural communities. Another good example is the one that the proposal I drafted for a park out at Morton there at Hopgood Rock to really boost the tourism industry and tourism and outdoor recreation industry there in Morton. And a lot of the reason why I want to build parks for rural communities is because Washington has an enormous outdoor recreation and tourism in the economy. People really don't realize how enormous it actually is. And that's partly because most of our communities aren't set up to take advantage of it. You have a lot of these small towns where people just drive through on the way to the mountains. There really isn't any reason for tourists and hikers to stop in most towns in this county and throughout Southwest Washington and throughout the rural portion of the state. So what I want to do is build parks next to those towns. Really make them really attractive parks from a outdoor recreation perspective, and give people a reason to go and actually make rural towns their destination. I think that this is absolutely key to uplifting rural areas of the state. I also want to invest in alternative materials manufacturing. We have a real problem around here in Southwest Washington with just going after every new project that comes our way. Just wanting to accept whatever falls into our lap. And I think we really need to go after the right sort of industries that will both create jobs and be permanent, sustainable fixtures of our communities that will be clean and will be just economic drivers that will last for generations to come. And one such industry, which I'm really enthusiastic about, is industrial hemp. This is a really versatile material that can be used to make all manner of different products, from wood products to plastics to clothing. And it can be produced on existing farmland as an intercrop or a fallow crop, meaning that it doesn't need to replace existing crops, and it grows much faster than comparative material sources such as wood or cotton. You can produce a lot of hemp in a relatively small area, and it's much safer to turn into actual products such as paper. It doesn't require the same sort of toxic chemicals that are required to make paper products. So you reduce the threat of injury to workers and to communities and the environment. So I could go on about hemp for a very long time, so I'm going to cut it there. I also think transportation in rural areas really needs to be addressed. Public transportation. There's a serious issue. It's one of the biggest issues affecting affordability in rural areas of the state, that we just don't have a really robust transportation network. For example, we actually really had a better public transit network back in the early 20th century. There used to be an electric light rail, electric tram running between Centralia and Chehalis back in the day. And there used to be train stations in small towns. I think if along the I-5 corridor, we need a train station in every small town along that rail corridor. And we need frequent and reliable train service there at an affordable price, so that people can get from where they live to where they work without necessarily needing a car. I think everyone needs to have the option to live car-free, and that would dramatically increase affordability. It's even a problem within towns and cities in the region where a lot of people are just not really able to get around, and it denies them opportunities that come along with being able to access transit. Being able to have, if you can't own a car in much of the U.S. and Washington State, you're kind of out of options, and it's what leads to a lot of homelessness and other issues within these regions. So I think it's really important to expand public transit in Southwest Washington and Lewis County. And then on the topic of housing, that's of course another really important issue of affordability, is that we don't have affordable housing really. And I think we need to build it in central areas of communities, both so that it has access to more public transit options, so it's easier to build out that public transit network and assist more people with that, and so that people can in their daily lives not have to travel great distances to access their jobs, access essential services and needs. I think building affordable housing in central areas of communities is absolutely imperative. And it also helps with another major issue that we face, which is suburban sprawl and commercial sprawl and industrial sprawl that is paving over our fields and forests. That is something that I've witnessed for far too long in my life. And I think the solution to that is to make it so that we build up instead of out, so that we make our communities stronger while also protecting our fields and forests. And of course, I'm also anti-data center, very heavily anti-data center. I want to implement some very aggressive regulations against AI and data centers here in Washington, and I think that will really solve they contribute to so many problems, from pollution to the cost of electricity, and I think we need to fight back against them. As for my endorsements, I've been endorsed by the Clark County Democrats, the Kells County Democrats, and the Washington State Democrats Environmental Climate Caucus. And I hope that you will endorse me today. Thank you very much. And I'll happy to take any questions.
What's your name?
Huh?
Your name?
Andy Zahn.
Spell the last name.
Zahn.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, you choose. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about, trying to limit the amount of Airbnbs or corporate-owned housing or those kind of things for rural, areas? Because I think that's 90% of why housing is so expensive, because, a big corporation can set a price and people can't afford it.
It's absolutely a major problem, and I'm very much against that's all of that. Airbnbs and the short-term rentals, and really, I don't think corporations should own housing. I think, I very much would support serious regulation against those things. Yes, you.
You've got a lot of ideas. The big problem, we're in a red area and everybody's broke. How would you finance New Hartz?
Okay, so that is a big question. For one thing, Washington is currently a donor state, meaning that we send a lot more money to the federal government than we currently than we receive back in programs and services. And I would like to pursue options keeping that money in Washington. I also believe that the rich should be paying a much larger share, and that also. I think we need, again, going back to investment, I think that all of my ideas would eventually pay for themselves, either directly or through or indirectly taxes on the greater economic prosperity that they would create. There's, right now, rural areas such as Lewis County are subsidized by the state pretty heavily, and what we need to do is make it so that they are self-sufficient, self-supporting, and that requires a large initial investment. I would support even the state borrowing money even to invest in major improvements that would make us economically self-sufficient. It's really how the government should be run. As in this sense, it's like running a government as a business, and as a business, you have to invest in your business, and in this case, invest in communities, in underserved areas of the state, and uplift them. So it's really more, in my mind, it's more a matter of that we can't afford not to invest in regions like Lewis County, and I think the state should make that a priority. Perfect. Thank you, Andy. Oh, one more question? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like your ideas, but as we know, the devil's in the details, and also in the elbow grease. So I'm curious about what kind of a project or two that you have been involved in from beginning to end, dealing with other human beings as well as all the details.
Well, I've been involved in a lot of environmental grassroots work, largely contributing my services as a photographer and a videographer. So I think my strength is that I'm coming from this and into this as an outsider, as somebody who's not been involved in politics. We have a lot of politicians who have a lot of experience in working in government who don't get anything done. So I think my inexperience is itself an advantage.
All right, thank you, sir.
Let's get a hand to all the candidates, please.